So basically, you guys know, if you know me, my thing is mindset, strategy, execution. I think, those are the three key components to creating everything you want in business and frankly, and in life. Like pretty much you could lay mindset, strategy, and execution over anything. And you could see like why you were getting what you wanted or why you were not getting what you wanted, quite frankly. And so that's why I'm so obsessed with that framework. But the thing is, mindset is the foundational piece of that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It's not that I think mindset is more important necessarily, I just think it makes the other things easier, right? And what I mean by that is, if my mindset's in place, it's easier to form the strategy and it's easier to execute. It doesn't mean the strategy is less important. It just means that doing the strategy piece without some pretty solid mindset in place makes strategy more difficult. Does that make sense for you guys? If you're listening, if you're watching, I'd love to know, like, do you feel like mindset is the missing piece for you in the MSE, Mindset Strategy Execution Framework, or do you feel like there's a different piece? Like, I would be so interested to know, what do you feel like the piece that needs the most focus of yours is right now? If you're watching this, it might be mindset. Cool. If you're watching this and you're like, oh, this is good, but I kind of got that, totally cool too. Just curious to know. Okay, so that's why we're talking about mindset today. And again, it's so funny that, of course, I picked this secret to share today, and then it was the thing I needed to lean most into this morning. And so here is one of the biggest secrets of my success and of the mindset that I have. And it's going to sound really, really, really simple. And also, I would bet most people are not doing this and not thinking about it like this. So the biggest secret is not making yourself wrong. That's the whole thing, not making yourself wrong. And if you participated in the partnership and didn't win the spot, it would be really easy to make yourself wrong. And quite frankly, if you participated in the partnership and did win the spot, it would still be easy to make yourself wrong. Like, on the one hand, right, you could be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't get picked. What did I do wrong? On the other hand, you could be like, oh my God, I can't believe I got picked. Like, did I take someone's spot that would have been better than me or that would have done better than me? You know what I mean? Like, it's a mind fuck either way. Kristen says mindset is everything. Mindset 1,000 or 1,000,000%. Yeah, I was like, how many zeros are there? Yeah, so glad you're here. Right? Not making yourself wrong is the whole secret, and not just the partnership process, but in business in general. And I'm going to talk a lot about how I do this and why it's been one of my secrets to success. But I really want you to think about this for a minute. Do you make yourself wrong a lot? Do you spend a lot of time in your business looking at the things you did wrong? And do you think that it's helpful, right? Because a lot of my clients come to me thinking, well, of course I'm looking at what I'm doing like wrong. That's the way I'm going to grow my business, is to figure out what I'm doing wrong and fix it. Right? Like, it can be really easy to make ourselves wrong, and it can be especially easy to have really, really, really good reasoning for doing that. Does that make sense? If that makes sense to you, drop me an emoji. Let me know if that's making sense, if you agree. But I think that, like, so often the making yourself wrong thing is covered up with, oh, but that's how I improve, that's how I grow, that's how I get better. You know what I mean? And truthfully, that's not the thing that's going to make you grow. So not only are we going to talk about how to not make yourself wrong, but I want to talk about how to grow and not make yourself wrong, because those things aren't actually mutually exclusive. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be wrong to grow. And I think that's like a mind-blowing concept for our brains sometimes, because our brains are like, must find problem, must fix problem, must find problem, must fix problem. Like, that's like what they do, right? They're like an organ, and they function in a certain way, which is must find problem, must fix problem, right? And so often the problem we're trying to find is within ourselves, and then what we can do to fix it. But this is the slowest path to success. So when you're trying to fix all the shit that you think is wrong with you, slowest path, right? Monica says, ooh, I fell into that trap last year and it held me back for so long. Totally, Kristen. Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. So here's the deal. This has shown up for me in so many ways in my business, but I'll give you a few examples. One is, I've really built my business model in a different way than most people have. It would have been really easy while I was on the path to going, I kind of want to do my own thing, and I kind of want to have a one-on-one focus model, and I want to figure out how to scale that versus doing like the courses, whatever. It would have been really easy for me to go, something's wrong with me that I don't like courses. I need to figure out how to get more on board with that. Something's not right with me. I must not be cut out for this. What's wrong with me? How do I get more on board with liking courses? That would have cut off all my creativity, all of my innovation, all of the ways that I found to scale this business that really, really, really serve me. If I spent that time making myself wrong instead of going, let's assume I'm not wrong here and I just have a different desire. How do I step up for that? And that's where the growth happens. Let's assume I'm not wrong and I have a desire. How do I grow into that? Right? And you could lay this on top of so many things, right? Like you didn't get the client on the call. Like you had a sales call, you didn't get the client, right? You can be like, oh my God, I fucked it up. I'm bad at sales. I'm wrong. I'm bad at sales. I shouldn't get on another sales call until I get better at sales, right? Or you could be like, God, that was such a good learning experience. I'm so stoked for the next call. It's such a small thing, but it's such an important thing. It is the difference maker in how you feel about being in your business every day. It is the difference maker. And if your growth is actually really like feel good growth, or if it feels like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, it's the difference between how you feel when you put your head down on your pillow at night and how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Because the question is, if I constantly making myself wrong, am I actually going to feel good most of the time? No. And like, what's the whole thing? What's the whole thing with mindset? To feel good, right? I tell my clients this all the time, like everyone thinks like mindset's so complicated. And I'm like, mindset pretty fundamentally is just training your brain to feel good most of the time, right? And if you feel good most of the time, it's really hard to like do life bad. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the whole thing. And if you feel really good, then your vibe is good and then you attract good things and so on and so forth. But the point is, if you feel really good, it's hard to do life bad. Does that make sense? So I would love to know if you guys feel comfortable sharing, but totally okay if you don't. Like, what is something you've made yourself wrong for in your business? I do really good with examples. So give me some. I'll give you some of mine. What is something you've made yourself wrong for in your business, right? Let me think of another thing that I've made myself wrong for. I did this a lot in a previous position. So when I worked in the nonprofit world in a 9-to-5, I had a pretty high level position and a lot of staff, and I was younger than everyone that worked for me. Like literally I was younger than every single person that worked for me. And I made myself wrong for that all the time. And so I did dumb shit to overcompensate. Like I would, you know, try to show up and be like that tough boss, or, I mean, this is a silly thing, but I'm just giving examples. Like I would not be the leader that I wanted to be. The silly thing is I would wear glasses every day and I wouldn't wear my contacts because I was making myself wrong for being young and I wanted to like hide it from people, you know? And so when I stopped making myself wrong for being young, I became such a more compassionate leader. I became so much more free in meetings. I showed up in an entirely different way. And actually I grew so much more because of that, rather than trying to make myself wrong and grow, right? I always think about like anybody that's like, you know, a multimillionaire, when they're getting asked about like, what was your secret to success? Nobody's ever like, well, I just beat myself up enough so that I did the things. You know what I mean? Like nobody's saying that shit. Hey, Jessica, thank you. Nobody's saying that, right? But it's also not talked about enough. Like I think we talk a lot about it. I think we talk a lot about things in like different capacities. And what I mean is we talk a lot about self-love. And then we talk a lot about like knowing what's working, what's not, and fixing the problem. But I don't think we're talking about how they have to coexist together. Like you have to love yourself and not make yourself wrong while you're figuring out what needs to get tested and tweaked and corrected in your business. Does that make sense? And that is where real growth occurs. When you're not giving yourself a hard time and you're not making yourself wrong for everything you do, but you're figuring out what you can do better, how to do it better, and how to show up in a different way, right? So that's the ticket to moving forward. Lauren says, paid for courses that didn't return on my investment and put me into a lack mindset around money. I made myself wrong for being reckless with money in the beginning of my business. Oh God, that's a good one. I think a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. Like, oh, I made the wrong investments versus like, it was such a fucking good learning experience and I'm going to take all of that with me, right? Hey, Jamie, thank you. Thank you. Definitely. Mine is no one watched my Facebook Live. I must be doing something wrong. So good. Jessica says, totally makes sense just being able to go with the flow in a smart way. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to use Lauren's as an example for a second, because what happens is, and this is what was happening to me too when I would like have the chance to make myself wrong about my business model or whatever, is that you can start losing trust with yourself, right? So if the story becomes, I make bad investments, you stop trusting yourself. If Cash's story becomes, I do something wrong on Facebook Lives, you stop trusting yourself. And that is why this is so important, because if you erode your self-trust over time, it's going to be really hard to just like be a human, but it's going to be really fucking hard to be an entrepreneur, right? Like you have to trust yourself so much to play this game called entrepreneurship. Chris said I did the same thing as Lauren. Hi, Sarah Baker. Sarah Baker, look at this thing. It's basically like a pink fuzzy blanket. I feel like you would really dig this. Yes, exactly. That's what I did as a result. Totally, right? And I had, times where I would do that with my business model. Like, am I just like totally off the deep end and I shouldn't be listening to myself and I really should be listening to everyone else, right? I'm trying to think. I was going to say something about money that I did this with. Oh, I did this with my student loan debt for a while. So I had a ton of student loan debt from getting 2 master's degrees, both were from private colleges, don't even get me started. And then I was in this space where like, of course they're super relevant, but they're just not as important, if that makes sense. Like, so the knowledge is relevant, the letters behind your name is just simply not as important. And there was a time where I would, in my head, make myself wrong. Like, I can't believe I took on that much debt for something that's not important now. I can't believe I took on that much debt for something that's not important now. And then again, you erode your self-trust. You're like, oh, can I trust myself to make the next right investment? Can I trust myself to do the next right thing? And it's crazy making. And so what I came to with my student loans was like, I'm so fucking thankful for that knowledge. I'm so fucking thankful that it helped me to leverage into a business that's going to let me pay those bitches off in a couple years. I'm so thankful that I learned hard lessons about money early on. I'm so thankful that I'll never make similar debt mistakes again. I'm so thankful that I'm in a position to learn from that and manage it and think about money in an entirely new way. I'm so thankful that I'm in a position to rework my money mindset. So that's how you don't make yourself wrong and grow anyway. I'm so thankful that I learned those lessons and now I'm going to grow from them. I'm so thankful I invested in all those courses because now I have so much knowledge that shit's never going to happen again. I'm so thankful that I had a couple crappy Facebook Lives because now, even if one person shows up, I'm going to be happy as hell, right? And so that's the message I want to give you today. Like, I'm so happy I did that partnership process and didn't get it because I'm so glad I am not going to give that bitch 20% of my earnings over the next 6 months. I'm kidding, right? But you know what I mean? Like, you get to choose the frame and you get to not make yourself wrong, And it seems so small again, and it seems so like, yeah, that would be nice. But it is the game changer because if you sit in this process and make yourself wrong, it's going to be the thing that stops you, right? So what Monica said on here earlier, I did that last year and it totally kept me stuck, right? Yep, when you erode your self-trust, you won't show up at all anymore. I totally agree with that, Jessica. Angela said, blew my trust on the value challenge, caught me off guard, but showing up and working through it. Yeah, I love that. And I love your like honesty about that. And I think that is how you don't make yourself wrong and you grow. You're like, so fascinating. Like, I love that I had an opportunity to see that was an edge for me. And now I can't wait to lean into it versus like, oh, I fucked it up or I didn't show up in the right way or whatever. Like, no, this is the thing, right? Chris said, me too, Lauren. I don't trust my own decision making at this point. Chris, I think that's so, like, it's gonna sound so cheesy, but like, that's the step. And what I mean by that is the step is realizing like, oh, I see what I did, I see where it led me, and I see why I don't trust myself now. And then to rebuild it is actually so much easier. What happens is we don't even realize that that's what's going on. We just stop trusting ourselves, and then we feel paralyzed, and then the trust erodes more and more and more and more the more we don't show up. So my point is, I actually think you're way ahead of the game, and I think you did most of the hard work by identifying that, right? I love something that was discussed at the Happy Thoughts retreat, and I think you said instead of beating yourself up over it, oh my God, instead of beating yourself up over it, be curious about it. I do that all the time now when I'm thinking, oh, I can't believe I blank. It becomes, I wonder why I did blank. Absolutely. Like Sarah always makes fun of me because I'm always like, fascinating. Like I just like watch my own behavior and I'm like, oh, fascinating, right? But it's like, it feels better to be like, God, fascinating, or I wonder why, versus like, and I fucked it up again. Because the more you tell yourself, and I did it wrong, and I fucked it up again, or whatever, the more you're going to stop forward motion in business. And if you don't take quick action in business, especially as like a small business, you're going to just stop moving, quite frankly. And so most of the clients that I have that have seen really quick success are because they're really, really decisive and quick action takers. And self-trust and making yourself wrong is the exact and only thing that's going to not make you a quick decision maker or a quick action taker, right? Sarah says, I feel like we've had approximately 47 conversations about this, LOL, but now I'm like, every situation, if I start to feel crappy, I ask myself, how can I win here? That's such a good one. That's such a good way to ask it. How can I win here? Because I think so often we put ourselves in like non-winnable situations, right? So like, let's use Lauren's example of the courses. The non-winnable situation she could back herself into is, I don't make good investments, I can't trust myself, and so I can't possibly ever get support again. Well, like, what's the win there? You suck and you can never get supported. Like, what's the out? Where can we like walk out of this corner with a win? Never, right? And so I think that's a perfect way to put it, Sarah. This was not me in biz, but in a relationship for so long. Ooh, Caitlin, yeah, the guilt and stories I told myself. I've done this in biz too, but just another way to think about it in terms of life things. Yeah, that's good. I think that makes sense too. Like if you think everything you're doing wrong, or if you think you're doing everything wrong in your relationship, you're just going to feel stuck all the time, right? But it's such a good reminder that we do this to ourselves, like in all areas of life, right? I've also taken responsibility for clients who aren't taking action in their business. Talk about a buzzkill, right? And just another way to make yourself wrong. Like, I'm wrong because so-and-so isn't taking action. Well, to Sarah Baker's question, how can you win there? Like, besides maybe you going and taking the action for them, like you're putting yourself in an unwinnable position when you own that and make yourself wrong. So I love that you have that perspective now, Jess. Kristen said, I thought everybody else had the answers instead of me. Now I trust myself and really lean into my role and take responsibility. Total game changer. Slightly distracted as I'm waiting for a client call. Totally okay. But yeah, I think that makes sense. Like when you think the answers are outside you, or you can trust everyone but yourself, or like you always get it wrong, but everyone else always gets it right. Like that is never going to build a successful business. That never leads to you being the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm sorry, I needed that. What Rita says, she always says, what's the blessing or lesson that I can use to move myself or others forward from this? So good. Lauren said, this is so good and so true. I came out of making myself wrong over certain financial decisions by trusting that it all happened for a reason. And I came away with invaluable lessons and ways I can now relate to my clients and what they're often dealing with around money. Making those investments also lit a fire under my ass, and I became super productive as a result because I was determined to be successful and make the investments back. So good, right? And so like, in a way, they didn't give you the return, but in a way, the experience of investing gave you a return. And so I think that's a good reminder too, is that it's like just the frame, but it's like, do I have to be wrong in this situation, or do I get to have a win, right? Do I get to grow from it, but not like put myself through a bunch of crap along the way, right? So here's another thing, and I think we've already touched on this, but I think it's just a super important piece, which is like, how do you still look at what's not working, test things, tweak things without making yourself wrong. And one of my favorite ways to do this is to think about how can you separate yourself from the business, right? So when we're running our own business, when we're a solo entrepreneur, when we're like the whole thing, like the CEO, the service provider, and the janitor, so to speak, it's really, really, really hard to separate yourself from the business. And so it's like if the business has something not great happen, you're wrong, right? So like I'm going to use Cash's example of having a Facebook Live that nobody shows up for. If you can see that as the business had a Facebook Live that nobody showed up for, what are we going to do? Versus Lacey had a Facebook Live that nobody showed up for and she's wrong and she sucks. Like those are very, very, very different things, right? So my business could have a bad launch. My business could have a crappy live stream. My business could have an unhappy client. My business could be taking responsibility for a client that won't take action. My business could have made a bad investment choice. But it does not mean like Lacey has to see herself as owning all of that as a human, right? It's sort of like you can make a mistake in your job if you had like a 9-to-5 and not feel like, well, I'm just like the worst human in the whole entire world. You're like, oh, okay, like as an employee, I made an incorrect decision or whatever. Does that make sense? But sometimes when it's our business, it's so intertwined that we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, that we can't see that just because something happened in the business, that it doesn't really have to mean anything about us, right? So let's think of an example of that. Let's use Jessica's about taking like their responsibility for your clients, not taking the action. You can go, oh, okay, interesting. So the business has a challenge point with getting clients to take action more. What's the opportunity there? How do we test that? How do we tweak it? Instead of, I must be a bad coach because this client isn't taking action in the way they should. See how that's really slight, but really different and really helps it so that you can make a tweak, test things, tweak things, but not own all of it, right? And not hold yourself accountable to never make a mistake, right? Because that means you're being a really shitty boss and CEO. You know what I mean? Like I made plenty of mistakes when I worked in a 9-to-5. That's fine. I'm a human. And then in this, sometimes we come into this business and we're like, I should never make a mistake. I should never make a wrong decision. And if I do, I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm whatever. And so it's really your job to start seeing you and the business as separate, right? And it doesn't mean that you are not bringing all of yourself to your business or that it's not lighting you up or that, it's like becoming this really like, boundary thing. It's just knowing that like as an entrepreneur doing it your own way, you're gonna always have opportunities to do things better, but it doesn't make you wrong. And if you can take that mindset, it is so easy to grow and expand so fast because nothing feels scary. It doesn't feel like if I make this decision and it doesn't play out the way I want it to, that I'm not going to trust myself anymore. If I did make this decision and it doesn't play out the way I wanted to, I'm going to have to feel shitty for weeks. Like that's the stuff that actually keeps you stuck, right? Jess says, better onboarding practices to screen applicants differently before they work for you. Amen to that. And that's such a good example of like the business, right? So the business needs a better onboarding practice. Jessica is not like fucking it all up. Like it's just such an important distinction, right? Debbie says, right, because we make it so personal, 100%. Kristen says, Bob. So I've like had some of my clients name their business so that they can see the business as something other than them. So for me, my business is a lit up life. So it's kind of easier sometimes to be like, oh, like what does a lit up life need to do better? Or like what does a lit up life need to go to the next level? So it's a little bit easier in the sense that my business is in my name. Now, I'm not at all suggesting that. I just mean that you shouldn't have your name for your business. I'm just saying mindset-wise. So my clients' business is also their name. Sometimes we'll name the business, right? We'll be like, okay, what does Bob need? Like, what does Bob need to test and tweak versus like, what does Kristen need to fix, right? And it's such a difference maker. It also helps you show up without the pressure because you're like, well, today Bob needs me to do X, Y, Z. It's not like, today I'm going to try to do this, but what if I get in resistance? But what if I don't have it right? What if I can't trust myself? Like, it's just crazy how helpful it is to separate out those two and not making yourself wrong. Chris says, this is so helpful because I cannot separate myself from my business at this point. Chris, give your business a name. Like, I'm not saying you have to go name it publicly, but like, call it Henry, like whatever. Like, what's your business's name? Like, how can we create that separation? I've had discovery calls where I just knew, trust your gut. Oh, amen, girl. Trust your gut. That's a real thing. But also such a good like full circle moment, which is like, if you erode that trust with yourself with clients, then it's harder to trust your gut on a discovery call. If you don't make yourself wrong with those clients, then it's easier to refine and get even clearer, even quicker, even faster at spotting shit on a discovery call. That's a red flag or a deal breaker, right? Yeah. Okay, Chris, I'm not trying to pick on you. We love you. Tell us what you're gonna name your business. Okay. What else do I want to say about this? I think that's kind of it. I'm trying to think. I know I had like an example I wanted to bring up specifically. Oh, I know. There it is. I wanted to talk about how it really came up for me today. Your business is Chris Lismark, right? So like, call it Bob, Henry, whatever. Like, not publicly, right? You're not going to do that to anybody else but you, but you're going to think about it like that, right? So instead of being like, what does Chris need to do? You're going to be like, what does so-and-so, the name of the business, you know, need to do, right? What does the business need to tweak, right? Versus feeling like it's so intertwined with you, right? If they look at you and say, you're stabbing me in my creative process, oh my God. That's the most intense thing I've ever heard. With a scary, angry look when you're asking questions. Yeah, walk away. Great advice, Jessica. Great advice. Definitely walk away from that. That's hysterical. Probably not funny at the time, but probably like very funny to look back on. Okay, so this morning this really came up for me, and again, it's so funny that I picked it today, and it was sort of like getting a taste of my own medicine to a certain extent. Because partnership days are really emotional for me, actually, because I'm so excited. I have to trust myself a ton. I feel tired by that point. And so, you know, like when you're even like a little bit tired, your emotions are just more sensitive than normal. So I'm tired because I've been like watching videos and reading shit all weekend. I feel really excited for the process to start. I feel really sad and emotional that it's over. Almost like when you have like a big trip or big event and then it's like sad on the other side. It's like the blues after Christmas, right? On top of that, I feel so, you know, emotional about the people who I may be disappointing. I feel so concerned that people are going to think that it meant there was something wrong with their business. And so a lot of times in that process, I can start making myself wrong. Like, oh, did I set up the process wrong? Should I have done this different? You know, should I say this in the email? Like, it's just super easy on a day like today to make yourself wrong. Like, should I write this post? Should I do this? Should I email this person? Like, I'm wrong, right? Someone else has an uncomfortable emotion. I'm wrong for that, right? I've certainly gotten so many lovely emails today, but also during this process, sometimes you get a couple of upset emails, and that's okay too. And my point is, I had to work especially hard on a day like today to not make myself wrong. And so it was so perfect and beautiful and divinely timed that I had already picked this topic to talk about today. And I was like, oh, such a reminder too, that like, even in the moments where your brain tells you, no, but you really might be wrong this time, that's when the work is even more important to go, and I'm still not wrong, and I can still grow. But there's so many chances where there's so many times you'll have the chance to really think, well, this time I actually suck. You know, and your brain's so good at convincing you, like, yeah, Lacey, I know you're going to teach on mindset stuff later, and I know you're going to say it's like the secret is not making yourself wrong, but like this time kind of fucked it up. And that's when the work is the most important, right? It's to be like, no, still no. I'm still not wrong. I'm still doing the best I can. And my business, A Little Life, can still learn amazing lessons from this, and we can move forward from it. So one of the lessons that I learned from last time is that I wanted more of a, sorry if you can see a tail. It's a dog. One of the things I learned last time is that I wanted a more personal connection with people afterwards. And so I wasn't like trying to make myself wrong. I wasn't like, oh my God, I should have been more connected with people. I suck, they think I suck. I was like, cool, so next time we're gonna do a group call afterwards. And we added that this time, right? And I'm so excited about that. So I think that that's, you know, like the small things is like, I learned that lesson last time, we added it this time, and we grew and tweaked in that way. But it doesn't mean I was wrong last time. And it doesn't mean that if I notice things this time that I'm wrong. It means that like I'm doing it exactly right because I'm in the process and testing and tweaking it as I go. But again, it doesn't mean that it's easy, and your brain will fuck with you and try to convince you that this time it's different. This time you're doing it wrong. And that's when you go even deeper on the mindset work. Jessica says, and we can apply next time. Of course, 100%, you know? And so, yeah, like that's the work. And I think it's just like when I say the work, I think it's just finding like, what am I doing right? And how do I focus on that? What's the opportunity and how do I focus on that without making it wrong? You know, so there's an opportunity for growth. There's an opportunity to do this group call, and I didn't get it wrong. That is a takeaway for today. So the biggest mindset success secret is stop making yourself wrong. I actually got asked that on a podcast recently. And you know how you're almost surprised sometimes at what you like say? And somebody asked me a little while ago, like, what do you think one of your biggest secrets to success has been, or what's been your biggest secret? And it like just came out like that. And I was like, oh, I just really don't make myself wrong anymore. And I was like, oh, that's true. That's right. And I've really been noticing and living into that more and more and more since that moment, since that came out, because I really think it's the biggest secret, because it helps me recover faster. It helps me make decisions faster. It helps me move forward faster. It helps me be decisive. It helps me take more fast action, because I know if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to spend weeks beating myself up. So I hope that was helpful to you. If you have questions about this, let me know. If you want to know how to put it into your mindset practice, let me know. Marlene says, I imagine your ponytail feeling so smooth. You know what? It's weird because this part is, but my ends are feeling a little scraggly, which is why I keep doing that to them, because they're not as smooth, but I definitely need to get a trim, but that's super funny. Thank you, Marlene. Thank you for joining me. Kristen says, amen, so true. Awesome. Okay. So I love you guys. I love you so much. I love all of you that applied for the partnership so much. I'm so grateful to you. I hope this was useful. Oh, I know one other thing I want to say. So all of you that applied and went through the partnership process are getting a bundle from me, and it's going to include my MSC framework, so Mindset, Strategy, and Execution Framework. And it has really, really, really powerful questions so that you can see like, what are your opportunities for growth and what are your opportunities to capitalize on the things that you're already amazing at. And it really helps you take this mindset perspective of like, I can grow and not be wrong. I can lean into my strengths even more. I can expand without being wrong where I'm at. And so if you're a partnership participant, you're getting that for free, and I want you to dive in because it's going to really help you with that concept. If you are not in the partnership and you're watching this and you want it, it's alittledlife.com/MSE. I can actually put it in. But yeah, if you were a partnership participant, dive into that right away, because it is going to help you gain so much perspective without it being a problem, without making yourself wrong. And it's going to help you lean into your strengths even more. So let me know how that goes. If you guys have questions on this and are watching the replay, let me know. I love and appreciate you all and hope you have a beautiful week. Bye, guys.